Jen, how's it going?
Oh, it's really good. It's really good. How about you? What's been happening for you?
I'm doing well. And I think lately with my students, we've been talking a lot about heartfelt desire. As we're going through the iRest protocol with them and as we're going through the protocol, a lot of it really comes back to heartfelt desire. So that's something that's what's on my mind lately.
Heartfelt desire is such an interesting thing. I think about, when I was kind of trying to introduce it to kids, like my nieces and nephews over the years. And initially, when we first started talking about heartfelt desire, I mean, because it's such a deep topic and they only had been on earth maybe for 5 years or 6 years at that point. Um, so I remember just starting off with like, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what interests you? And of course, like even that's a hard topic for little kids. But from that, starting off with like maybe wanting to be a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer or something, a fashion designer, it's kind of changed and evolved over the years. So in recent years, I've been able to start, talking more about the heartfelt desire, and not about just being a fashion designer. Is there something else? Like maybe is it creativity that drives you, or is it wanting to share something in the world, or what is it, sort of this overarching thing that fashion designer might fit under? Yeah.
Yeah. I think heartfelt desire is a very interesting topic, and I think a lot of students struggle with this concept. And so, just for our listeners, heartfelt desire from the iRest protocol, the integrative restoration protocol, it's really about not setting an intention, though it is part of intention setting, but it's really about, well, what is your intention for life? Why are you here? Right? What are you here to do in this lifetime? What is your life purpose? And some people might call it your dharma. What's your dharma? And a lot of the issues or struggles that my students have around this concept is the word desire. Because in a spiritual sense, we've almost been conditioned to think that, oh, desires are not something that is compatible with having a spiritual practice. So why would we want to be seeking our desire, our heartfelt desire? It kind of, in their mind, kind of goes against what they know, and what they've been trying to achieve is to, not have desires or not to be attached to desires. And so I found it was so interesting that a lot of students got stuck on the word desire. And we tried different words. We say, well, it doesn't have to be desire. It can be something else. It can be, what is your heartfelt purpose? What is your heartfelt intention? What is your like dharma, if that's a better word for certain people? But as we kind of continue to investigate even though whether we use the word desire or not, it's not something that's coming from us. It's not that, oh, it's my desire to do this in life, that I choose this life purpose. So another way that I invited my students to think about or to see it from a different point of view is, what if you don't think of it as your heartfelt desire, but it's more about what life desires for you. And so that seems to be a bit more helpful, but that was sort of interesting to see that struggle.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. The wording, right? And I so appreciate that, in iRest and integrative restoration, one of the sort of helpful pointers that they suggested was, just don't get stuck on the words.
Mm.
Depending on who you're working with, the words could fall away, and they could use other words that are more meaningful. So even with friends who I have in different industries, I have a friend who's in the nonprofit industry, and we were doing some work together. And what suited her more was North Star. So she said, like, so are you talking about the North Star? What's guiding us? What's guiding our purpose? And it was just an interesting way. Like, sure, if that's what's more meaningful to them, whatever that is. And even with little kids, it's interesting. When I think of my nieces and nephews, because they didn't have enough words yet, they don't have, enough experience yet, until they've gotten older, where, I suggested, well, what do you think? Is there something that maybe people have noticed about you? Is there something that, you're starting to notice that you enjoy, or that people enjoy about you? Sort of starting, they're slowly starting to develop a little bit more routines or patterns in life, and like creativity, right? So creativity, and I feel like that's a big one for little kids, especially, right? Creativity or wanting to be of service. So it's an interesting thing. I think if we, just like in the practice, we always say letting our words float away and just bringing in whatever resonates, it really makes more sense and more personalizes this heartfelt mission and desire, this experience for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that might be the first challenge, just getting over the certain words that we have concepts around, so we struggle with those. But even that is very interesting as an inquiry in itself. Well, why is it that we're so stuck on this word? What are we resisting here? But I guess that's a different topic. But then the next thing, or the next set of challenges that I see with students is that, well, I don't know what my heartfelt purpose is. How do I know? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to do in life. And part of the search, sometimes part of the reason that they come onto this self-inquiry journey is because they are seeking their purpose as well, because they don't know what that is yet. And so I find it really interesting, the way that the iRest protocol introduces this concept. There are many ways that we can start to inquire into our heartfelt desire. And while it is really important, and I think it is foundational, because just like what your friend said, the North Star, I really see the heartfelt desire as that. And I sometimes would refer to it as your inner compass, right? That's always um, guiding you on your journey in life without specifically drawing out a map saying you have to do this, or turn left or right here. It's just like you're just going to follow, right? Moment to moment, and it's going to continue to guide you to keep you going in the right direction. But it is a process to get in touch with that. And so I love how in the iRest protocol, there's one way that one of the senior instructors and Douglas introduced, was to even bring in any desires. So what is it that you desire in this moment? Even if it's something that's a personal desire, right? It could be, oh, I want to buy a house. And when I have a house, I will feel complete, right? And then, okay, imagine that you have this. Now, what's your next desire? And then it goes on and it goes on. And I love that, because you start to peel back all the different layers, because these desires that we have are, on the flip side, they're showing us where we have separated from our essential nature. Because we believe that, for instance, oh, I need the house in order for me to be complete, right? So there's a sense of lack, there's a sense of, maybe insecurity, and that when I get this thing, I'll be okay. So we get to a point where, what if you have every single thing you can possibly desire for yourself, and you feel complete and full and perfect? Then what else is going to be moving within you that drives you forward? And then I find that a really beautiful process, because it really is then getting to this place of this heartfelt desire. What is it that life wants of you when you are coming from this place of wholeness and feeling complete?
That's such a great practice. What's nice is I think someone could just keep coming back to it and then peeling and peeling it away. And then, yeah, it could lead them eventually to what they're, and Douglas also does another one. It's funny. I was also thinking of her, and I really love the one where you go into the meditation and you start to reflect back, like you're at the end of your life. And then what is it that, you'd want people to most remember you of, at the end of your life? And might be just one thing when you think of that at the very end, right? What is that one sort of um, last statement that you would hope that you'd leave and
Mm.
touch everybody with? So there's so many beautiful practices that can, help people to lead them. And I remember, I think back to when I first was becoming a yoga teacher, and I really was doing it just to deepen my own practice. And that month that we were away, that was one of our biggest sort of assignments was our Sankalpa, which is our solemn vow and promise. And it was just the one part Sankalpa. And even that, was very deep. It was basically for me the heartfelt desire. But in the yoga teacher training, they just called it the Sankalpa, the solemn vow. And it was so supportive when I'd spend every night, and all of us would, really feeling deeply into it. Because I don't know if we ever had a moment. I don't know if I had that much time ever to really feel into what I felt was the right thing. And at that time, I really was sort of recovering from life. I was a burnt out school teacher. I was moving back to Canada after 20 years abroad. And I remember what finally emerged for me at that time was, by greatly serving all of my bodies, because that's the first time I learned about all the different layers. Yeah, if I can greatly serve all of them, including the body layer and the breath layer, all the koshas, then I can be of great service. And that was a big one for me, really realizing that by taking care of all the different components that make up my physical body, my spiritual body, and all the different layers, I can be of better service. So it's such an interesting thing. I think a lot of people, if they can make that time to really feel their way, it's amazing how that Sankalpa can support them and how everything else in life will just unfold, right? Because if it doesn't fit with your Sankalpa, there's a lot of things I decided not to settle on, especially job-wise, when I would go back over and over to my Sankalpa, and it just didn't fit. It didn't fit the Sankalpa. So I was like, okay, I need to keep discovering. How did you find for you when you were discovering your Sankalpa?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a process, and I think that it's going to continue to evolve. And it's really nice to have a practice of checking back in because it's not that, oh, I'm done. Like once I found my, heartfelt desire or your sankalpa, oh, I'm done, and that's going to be my sankalpa for life. What the way that I explain it to my students is that your heartfelt desire doesn't change because it's already here. Life is already living through you. But because we as human beings are continuing to grow and evolve. And as we get on this path of spirituality and self-inquiry, that our perspectives start to change. Then we start to view or understand the heartfelt desire more and more deeply. And so it might feel like the heartfelt desire is changing, but my experience is that when I first encountered or what I thought was my heartfelt desire wasn't really. But at that time, it was a starting point for me that I can continue to check back and to inquire. So, this practice is not about, oh, did you get it right? Is it really your heartfelt desire? It doesn't matter. It's a starting point, and you'll continue to check back. And as long as we continue to be curious and to ask questions and to welcome life life unfolding as it is, then this process has begun, and we're going to continue to deepen and be in touch with the heartfelt desire. But one thing that I find really helpful, and it's an important point that you brought up, is that sometimes we can really get stuck in our heads and we think, oh, this is my intention, or this is, I feel good to be in service of others, or I need to be whatever it is. And it's very much driven by the mind. And in that sense, oftentimes it's the ego that's telling you that, oh, this looks good, or this helps me to feel validated, or that I have certain fears and insecurities within me that if I present myself a certain way, or to fulfill expectations of others or society, or even pressure that I put on myself, then that's the purpose that I should be following. Whereas the heartfelt desire is not coming from the head, it's irrational, it's a feeling. And so, what you said about feeling in your intention, feeling it in your body, and feeling it, does it feel right? And that's what we're really cultivating, this practice of feeling in the body. Does it feel right? And your body is very simple. It will say yes or no. And so I think that that's the practice is, does it feel right? Yes, it does, or no, it doesn't. And there's no story behind it. There's no, your body's not trying to make up an elaborate story to convince you one way or another. It's just going to tell you simply yes or no. And for many of us, because we've been so disconnected from sensations and feeling into the bodies, it is really elusive. It's like, what am I supposed to be feeling? I don't understand what you mean when you say feel into your intention. I don't feel anything. And so in that case, the practice is really about, let's just have a relationship with your body, right? And it could be a lot of body sensing practices that we do just to get that attention, or to bring that awareness back in the body so that we start to be able to, tap into the more subtle messages that come through.
Definitely. I agree for sure. And you make me think of how we talked about intentions at another episode. And, hopefully it comes to a point where maybe that heartfelt desire feels, really connected to how we are in the world. And so that those smaller intentions, even for that moment, just even being calm for that moment. And if it fits with greatly serving or whatever that heartfelt desire is, you can feel it too if that intention is not working at that moment, is not the right intention, is not the right action. So yeah, definitely sensing. So what would you suggest then as people start to cultivate their heartfelt desire? Maybe it's very new for them. What's a suggestion that you can give to people?
Try it out. I think that's just a starting point. Like, is there something that you think is your life purpose? It doesn't matter so much. I mean, we just have a starting point, right? So it could be, like you say, what is it that you really enjoy doing? What is it that brings you joy? What is it that kind of enlivens your body? It could be creativity, that I like to create art, or I like to create music. Or it could be that I want to be in service of others. I feel really good when I can support people in my community. Or it could be really, being in stillness and cultivating that stillness and nourishment from the inside out. So what is it that really brings you a sense of joy or peace, or that just a sense of well-being, perhaps? And then feel into that and imagine that, okay, if I'm living from that place. So, for instance, if it's being in service of others that really lifts me up and enlivens my body, then can I find opportunities to incorporate that into my day and my life, and notice how it feels whenever I um, act, or even not just about action, even our thoughts. When we have thoughts and the way we speak, and if it is in alignment to that, is to be in service of others, just notice how that resonates with you in the body as you start to practice this heartfelt desire. And then you're gonna, and you'll keep checking back in. Well, does it feel right? Do I continue to feel this kind of expansiveness in me, or am I starting to feel some sort of contraction? And maybe it isn't the right way to go. Maybe this is not exactly my heartfelt desire. And so I think that it's really taking it out on test drive and seeing. And then if the answer is, I really don't know right now, that's okay too. I think, like we said before, once you start asking the question, you're already on your way. And so patience, and just keep coming back. Well, what's my heartfelt desire? But instead of trying to figure it out from your head, drop down into your heart and just feel, well, what is it? What are sensations in my heart when I pay attention to this heart space? And it may not be anything that's logical. It might just be a feeling. But then that's your starting point. Can we just visit this feeling in the heart, and we'll continue to come back to it again and again and see how things might evolve.
I think
What
that'll be.
about you, Jen?
I was just thinking because that's a perfect way, and I believe that you're never too young to start sort of feeling into it, and thankfully, I feel like things have changed now that there's a lot more openness to, um, how children can present themselves in the world, and that they're just another valued equal human. And so, as we start to introduce these feelings of heartfelt desire and purpose, you know, hopefully there'll be less struggle, as they get older, because they've already started to, what do you enjoy doing? Like maybe you enjoy using your hands with things. Does that feel good? Or maybe you don't like getting dirty, holding things in your hand. Maybe it's something else, right? Maybe you like being mathematical. Um, so, in pedagogy, there's multiple intelligences, right? So it's not just the one intelligence. So uh, it could be anything. It could be anything environmental. It could be mathematical and academic. It could be language. It could be how you interact with people in the world, or have this reflection and insight about yourself. So it's lovely that there's so many possibilities, and as a teacher, um, I just felt more relieved in a way when, the child realized that they don't have to be academic. It might be something else that their gift in the world is. And so if we can keep cultivating that in young ones, from an early age, that there is a purpose, they are enough already, and then hopefully it'll be different as they get older.
Yeah, no, that I think cultivating at an early age is definitely a beautiful way to go. And it doesn't matter what it is. I guess we're always just trying to remind that our bodies are always giving us so many signals and messages, and whether we're talking about heartfelt desire or not, it's just learning to come back and just feel it in the body. How do I feel about this? So especially for those who don't know the heartfelt desire, just by noticing your sensations in the body as you go out, as you go through your day, you're going to notice that there are certain things or interactions or scenarios where you really feel a contraction, and that's likely not your heartfelt desire. Whereas there are going to be things, interactions, and scenarios where you may feel an expansion, an openness, a joy, and pay attention to those. And then as you continue to pay attention, there might be a common theme to all the things, people, interaction that kind of opens up that feeling of joy or expansion for you.
So please let us know. Let us know as you try different things on, what is bringing that expansion in the heart and what's bringing those contractions in the heart, both, neither good or bad, just giving you messages, and let us know. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye now.